for more on the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, it's time for Pro Football Focus analysis with George Shahuri. And George, we want to talk about who 2022's version of the Bengals and Rams might be. Bengals, of course, won just 4 games in 2020, made a Super Bowl run. The Rams were a good team that became great after some trades. So let's start first with which teams you think might be likely to become next year's Bengals.
Yes, and I'm going to start with a team that many are talking about doing something the Rams did, right? And trading a bunch of assets to get a star quarterback and doing all that stuff. But I actually think the Eagles are a great prospect for doing what the Bengals did with a quarterback whose first full year of starting, Jalen Hurts. He had a top 10 PFF grade, like 10th in PFF grade, which is phenomenal, has such a dynamic ability to change the game with his legs. And then you look at Devontae Smith, right? The key with Joe Burrow was getting a guy like Jamar Chase. Devontae Smith, the 3rd highest graded receiver in that rookie class, with Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle both playing really well. And then they have a ton of draft capital, and that was where obviously the Bengals made a huge leap because they were able to go get Jamar Chase. He made such a difference. So if the Eagles can go out and get a playmaker, not necessarily a wide receiver, maybe they have the picks to do it with a couple positions. This could be a team that goes from bottom half, and they obviously made the playoffs last year, to a team that's competing in the playoffs. The second team that I'll mention here, though, is one that I'm even more excited about because they're even further down the totem pole. They're a true worst to first, and this is the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence, right? You've got a former #1 overall pick. He had not nearly as good a year as Burrow did in his rookie year, but I think he's got some excuses there. That team was really terrible. He brings in a new coach with Doug Peterson. What I love about that is Doug Peterson's going to bring some aggression. They should go for it on 4th down a bunch. It's going to be a new system there. And of course, they have a top 5. They have the #1 draft pick. That should allow them to bring a great player in to complement what Trevor Lawrence can do. Be on the lookout for the Jags.
So the Jaguars in the Super Bowl next year, George?
Look, imagine if I told you the Bengals were going to be in the Super Bowl last year. You would have laughed me out of the house. I'm not saying it will happen.
You're right. You're right about that. All right, so let's see on the other side of the coin, who could be next year's Los Angeles Rams? Good teams that go to great Super Bowl contenders throughout the course of an offseason.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to go to a team that was a Super Bowl contender this year, but now they've lost their quarterback. So when Tom Brady makes his way over to San Francisco, as I hypothesize here, the Bucs are going to be looking for who's going to be the next great quarterback they bring in, because they're too good of a team to just say, hey, let's try it with a really unproven player. And you look at a Russell Wilson, you look at a Deshaun Watson. There are talented quarterbacks that are out there to be had. I'll even mention Kirk Cousins, who's, someone that kind of like Matt Stafford hasn't really had an opportunity to win in the playoffs, although he has actually won a game on the road in the playoffs. And they could go out and get one of those quarterbacks and bring them into a team that has easily a top 3 to 4 supporting cast, great offensive line, great receivers, a dynamic defense, and the ecosystem there to take a great quarterback and go back to the Super Bowl just a couple years after winning it. So I think that's one to look out for. The other team that I will mention here, and this is not a hot take, but this should be obvious, the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are in a position here with Nathaniel Hackett where they've got to make a run at Aaron Rodgers. And I think they should also make a run at Devontae Adams, and they should sell out for it. Why not? What are you waiting for? It's a tough division, obviously, with Mahomes, and you've got Herbert there. The Raiders are as good of a worse team in the division as you'll find. But you can get all those pieces together in one place with that type of a supporting cast, with the receivers, solid offensive line, some real talent on the defensive side of the ball. You will have Packers West, sort of, with the Denver Broncos. I think that's a team to look out for, and obviously they would be a strong Super Bowl favorite, even though they might not be the favorite at the start in their own division if they made those moves.
Yeah, we were having these same conversations last year, George, with the Broncos and that defense. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock aren't the answer, but if they could somehow pin down that ultimate QB1, look out for the 2022 Broncos. George Shahuri, thank you very much.